Hi, I'm Tim and this is Timberway Designs. In this series of videos, I'll take rocks that I buy or purchase or get from the viewers, and I'll make a single cabochon out of them. I'll take you through all the steps that it takes me to make a cabochon out of these rocks here. So this week, I got a piece of jasper from Jacob out in Idaho. Let's make a cabochon. So Jacob sent me some pretty cool rocks here, and I picked out this piece of jasper because I like the colors and stuff in there. And at first, I was going to do this one here because it had a bunch of green on top, but it was so fractured up every time I cut it, there was a fracture would show up or would break, and it like that there. I mean, I really wanted to incorporate this into the cab, but there was no way I was going to be able to do it with this rock here. So he had another one he put in there, and this one is really nice. No fractures and cracking. It's almost got, it's kind of oolitic almost. Look at the little dots and stuff in there. So this is the piece I'm going to cab. This is what the rough looks like. And it didn't have quite the green penetrating into the rock that I wanted, but I think the little eyes and dots kind of make up for that. So this is the piece I'm going to use here. And this is the side it's going to show. So what I'm going to do, I selected a ladder. And I think I can squeeze that in there. I'm taking my ultrafine Sharpie here. And let's see. Oh yeah, that'll work. Now if you are interested, I make these. This is I used to make them for myself out of some veneer I had left over for another project. But now I make nice little plastic ones here. So if you're interested in these, check out my Etsy page. I got a whole bunch of different designs, and I think they're quite priced reasonably, and they're pretty tough too. So anyway, so much for the plug there. So I'm going to take this downstairs. We're going to trim it on the trim saw, and then we'll take over in the cabber. We'll grind it down to the lines, put it on a dop stick, and then we'll make a cabochon out. So I'll see you downstairs on the trim saw. All right, down here on my 5-inch high-tech trim saw, we're going to kind of trim this closer to the line. Like I always say, the more you trim, the less you grind, but you got to be careful. All right, that's close enough for me. I am not going to lie to you. This stuff is really hard, so we're hoping for a really cool looking cab. So let's move over to the cabbing machine. We're on my Kingsley North 6-inch cabbing machine here. I got the shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind it down to the line. We'll start with the 80 grit, move over to 220 grit, and then the 280 grit. And after I get done with that, let me turn my dot pot on. We'll put a dop stick on it, and then we'll make a cab out. So let's get going. All right, I think that's close enough. We'll move over to the 220 now. Okay, now we're dealing with the radius here. The sides are straight, so anytime, like I said, when you're dealing with the radius, you gotta keep moving. Don't stop, or you'll grind a flat spot into it. All right, I'm liking that. Now we're gonna move over to 280 grit. What we got going here? get it dried off. Not too shabby. Alright, I am going to put this on the dot pot to heat up, put a stick on it, we'll come back and make cab out of it. Okay, I'm back. Got it all dopped up. And let me find a pointer here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind an angle into this down till I get about an 1/8 inch to 2 millimeter-ish from the bottom here, and that's called the girdle. And once I establish that all the way around this cab here, and then I'll start grinding on the edge and working my way to the center. Usually I just grind twice. So and then when I cab, I had a question from a viewer. I try to maintain as straight as I can for my my girdle, and then when I get to the 280 grit, I like to round over the edge. So we'll kind of talk a bit about, we'll talk a little more about that when I get to that point. So, all right, let's get started. Well, we'll start with a 280, 220, or 80 grit, 220 grit, 280 grit, and then once we're done with those, we'll move over to the polishing side. All right, I ground down to the top of what I want for my girdle right there. You can kind of see that line where I ground it, and it's kind of flat side or perpendicular, or whatever you want to say it, parallel to the stick. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind away this edge right here and kind of work my way towards the center. Okay, you can kind of see where I angled in towards the center right there. Now you could probably put another angle on that and completely get, but I'm close enough where I'm going to start cabbing now. So when I start cabbing, I just go from the top edge of my girdle, not quite, to the other side and back and forth. And then I'm kind of rocking it like this at the same time, because not only is it domed this way, but you also get a little doming action going this way. So let's start doming it. Yeah, I think I'm going to take a little bit more off the top. Alright, I think I'm okay with that. Now we're going to move on to 220 grit. Alright, pretty good here. So I'm not putting this in a silver setting or a bezel. So what I'm going to basically do is just round over the edges here. There's a sharp edge where my dome comes down to this edge right here. So I'm going to go ahead and grind it on the 280, and then I'm going to round it over into this girdle right here. That's the way I do it on this one. So if I was putting this in a silver setting, I would probably try to keep my girdle perfectly straight as I could, and then come down to the girdle and then set it in the silver, and then the silver get bent over the top of the girdle there. But I don't do silversmithing yet, so I can't say I'm an expert at all on it, but that's kind of in my mind how I think it would work. So let's move on to 280 here. Okay, you can kind of see how I round over my top of my girdle there. So when you're doing that, try not to put your corner in there like this, because you could damage your wheel if you push too hard. So I just try to stay on the flats and then kind of skip the corner and then start it on the corner again, and just work corner to corner, but don't dig the corner in. If you got a sharp corner, you can always touch it on the wheel just really lightly and get rid of that. Alright, I think I'm kind of happy with this. Actually, I'm going to touch this up a little bit more. And yeah, liking it. Okay, I'm going to shut you off. Going to move over to the polishing side and keep on cabin here. All right, I moved over to the polishing side. We got 600, 1200, 3000, and then I got a cerium oxide impregnated disc on the side here. So we'll start with 600. All right, looking good. Now we're going to move on to the 1200. All right, you know, that's looking pretty good, and that's dry right there. So let's move on to the 3000. All right, let's take a peek at the shine here, which I already did, but this is the 3000. Look at that. So we're going to take it over to cerium oxide so we can bump that shine a little bit, and then we'll be done with it. All right, this is my cerium oxide disc. This is a disc. Adhesive disc that's impregnated with cerium oxide that sticks to a foam pad, and then that screws into the end of my cabbing machine here. And these are replaceable. And they last quite a bit, so getting some good mileage out of this one. So let's get a splash guard in place because it sprays water all over the place, and we'll start polishing here. All right, let's see what we got. A little towel, a little pant leg, more pant leg. There we go. You don't get much better than that. So I'm going to take this upstairs, lay it in the freezer, get it off the stick, and then we'll take a close look at it. So we're back upstairs. It was a really hard rock, and it took a while to grind it down, but I'm really sure you'll love the results here. I got a nice clean break off the stick, got a beautiful cabochon to look at. Let's flip the camera around and we'll take a closer look at this. All right, let's take a close look at this cabochon that Jacob provided the material for me. Look at that. Look at the shine on that thing. That is awesome. And the little oolitic circles there kind of add a lot to the way this cabochon looks. I wanted the green top on there like I showed you earlier, but it just didn't quite work out. So there's the front, there's the back, there's the front again, and it just, the detail on this thing is incredible, and I'm really liking it. I'll have to make some more of this, but I might have to get some new rough wheels because I spent a lot of time grinding on this. So Jacob will get first pick of this. If he don't want it, then it'll go on Etsy, and then anybody can buy it then. So yeah, really pleased with that, the way it come out. So thanks for sending me some really cool Jasper to make a cabochon into. So I hope you enjoyed watching me take a piece of this Jasper here, this rough rock. I sliced it and I made a beautiful cabochon out of it, this one right here. And I'd like to thank Jacob out in Idaho for sending me the material to do this. I'm really impressed. So, oops. So, like I said, Jacob gets first pick of this if he wants it or not. If not, it'll go on Etsy. I'd like to thank the subscribers out there. Really appreciate you coming on board and watching the content. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. The button's down below. Press the button, it's free, it don't cost anything. And then once you press subscribe, slide over and give me a thumbs up. That gets the analytics out there so more people can find the content. You can share it, you can hyperlink it, and you can push the bell button, and you'll get notifications when the videos come out. So next week, I have a piece of red velvet agate. I got to look at my notes here. And I think this is going to make a really keen looking cabochon. So thanks for coming along and watching. I hope you enjoyed the video here. That's all I got, and I'll catch you later.